Bederow has a number of items as well.
Mr. Bederow.
Thank you, Judge.
Honestly, go fuck yourself, sir. You don't say that, okay? You don't lose a trial where a jury acquits someone and finds them overwhelmingly not guilty and say, I gave my sincere obligation to look into this, and I'm telling you all I saw when she's guilty. Again, respectfully, go fuck yourself.
Swear again like that. That was, no, I mean, whatever. That was, I shouldn't have done that.
A few moments later.
You, as a prosecutor, have got to be out of your fucking mind.
Nose.
Dude, Jimmy, look at those ears.
The ears don't bother me as much.
No, I don't trust a man. I don't trust a man with a lobe like that. No,
really,
not a fucking chance.
The mouth is butthole to me.
Very thin, paper thin.
The nose.
Oh, the nose.
The brows.
Well, listen, I will tell you though, I kind of like a fucked up nose on a guy.
Like a big old honker. I like a big nose.
old nose. Give me that big bitch. You know,
yeah,
like, I'm into it.
Come over here, cluck cluck.
Yeah.
I see some chickens that went moving on up in my biz, cluck cluck. Running, you gotta be with the kids, the kids, the kids, the kids, the kids, kids.
And I go, oop, clutch, clench, kegel. We did it all. And I go, oh, and what happened? And they go, well, we just got 4,000 plus pages, bitch. And I said, stop it. Show me it. Take me to Unimpound Town immediately, if not sooner. So what happens?
The bitch is here.
Why are you at a football game? Are you a Fonz correspondent?
Well, no, because it's only for men over 30. Okay? Have a great night, boys. Fuck off.
It's been 1 week since you looked at me.
Hey, Blues Clues, motherfucker.
Hello, loveys. Happy Sunday. The last day of August in 2025. And we are here today. We are blessed. We are highly favored. And with our favorite attorney, our emotional support human, and in the name of the Father and of the Son and the highly caffeinated attorney Mark Bederow, let us pray. Woo! Hello, Mr. Bederow.
Hi, how are you?
I am good. Happy Sunday.
Happy Sunday.
Thank you for joining us for Sunday service.
Thank you for having me for Sunday service.
You have become a rabbi to our community, and a trusted confidant, a consigliere, or of some sort. You are mine. I know that for sure.
Thank you, I think.
You're welcome. And he has been awake, loveys, for at least 4 hours, 5 hours now.
Yeah, no, early. I'm early when I'm in writing mode, so it's the best time of day. I'm a morning person. The ideas get spurred by caffeine, and I run out of ideas by about 2 o'clock in the afternoon. So I go as early as I can.
I love that. I also am a morning person, and I feel like my day is done like at 2 o'clock. I'm like, oh, give me a siesta and allow, like, my creative juices are flowing at between 5 a.m. and 2 p.m.
Yep.
After that,
yeah, I'm done. Yeah.
Yeah. That is we can agree on that. Now, tell me, I've missed you. I did see that you were on with our old friend, Mike Crawford. Awesome show. Incredible. Hi, shout out Mike Crawford. And that you're going on with Maza tonight at 5 o'clock. Everyone go see Maza after me. But for Sunday service, I need to know, how was your vacation? I know I saw a couple of pictures, but give me all the deets.
It's fun. I mean, you know, as much fun as going to Florida in the stifling August humidity can be, and taking kids to Disney World. I mean, there are limits on how fun that can be in terms of stress and craziness, but it's kind of an annual thing for us. We do it all the time. So it's a lot of fun. Everyone enjoyed it. And, you know, we'll do it again next year, I imagine.
Absolutely. Now, Do you count your steps? Are you a step counter? Because I went to Disney World. I took my girls when they were 5 and 6. And because I never went, like I didn't go as a kid. No one took me. Oh, thanks. The Diary of a Poor White Woman. And like, so our family just never went. So when I took the girls, we went for Christmas. It was so sick. It was the coolest. Like they woke up
Never go.
at,
Never.
oh, it was a madhouse, but it was amazing. But we walked literally, Mr. Bederow. It was 10 miles a day. I had to get, now the girls were 5 and 6. I was like, we're not going to need, and I don't know what I don't know, but I didn't think I was going to need strollers. Oh, babe, I needed strollers. And like by noontime, they were done. They were like, I can't walk another foot, Ma.
If you go hardcore, which one of my kids likes to do, the other one not so much, but which means if one of them does, you do it, you can get 25, 30, 35,000 steps if you go all day and just keep at it. I mean, it's just constant walking, sweating. I mean, it's the best kind of exercise you can get, even when you eat like a pig.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. And like, does it matter? It doesn't count. You're in the Magic Kingdom. And did you get those early? I remember that was the coolest because we were on the park and we stayed at not like my uncle is like a wicked, he's a yuppie, you know, and he gets to go to the, well, you as I say this, you're gonna be like, I stayed there, the Floridian and the Pomeranian or something. I don't know.
I'm laughing because traditionally we stay at the Grand Floridian or Polynesian is what you mean.
Polynesian.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes, I'm familiar with those. Very.
Yeah, so he goes there, but I got like we were at Tiana. I don't even remember. It was like something on the river, but it was super cute. It was like a deluxe. It was nice. It was cute. And but it was so funny because we would get like the magic hours or the extension hours. And I was like, I am elite I am. Okay. And I didn't realize that I think the upper echelon people had been there 3 hours earlier than me.
Yeah. They give you extra time if you stay at certain hotels. I mean, it's a marketing thing. How advantageous is it? Maybe a little. Of course, if you don't use it like you and you go 3 hours late, you get no value out of it. But you know, it's all part of the same thing. It's fun. It's all a ripoff, but it's fun. The kids love it. We love it. So you do it.
That's incredible. Why do you go August? Like, okay, if sorry, and then I'll move on from this, loveys, but I need to know because I love to know. Now, August is a choice, right? Christmas, insane. Christmas into New Year's was a choice, but
Christmas, never do. It's too insane. And really, the period of time that comes after summer camp and before we start school, which is right after Labor Day,
yes,
you know, that wheelhouse is basically sometime in the last 2 weeks of August. August is also kind of a traditionally dead time
for court.
Yeah, I mean, generally, there's always appearances, but it's just not a very active, busy time. So that's just the time slot. It works. It's certainly not to enjoy the weather. I mean, it's hot as hell. There's that 30 minutes of rain every day, and then it disappears.
Just sweat to the oldies.
I like the heat. You know, I spent a lot of time in Arizona, as you know, although that's a dry heat. But that's when we go. It's just the way it's always been.
Your family, yeah, no. And I used to go up to Old Orchard Beach when the girls were little. We did OOB every single summer, and it was like, for what, babe? For what? Like, and we loved it, but it was, you know, if you're paying $5,000 to stay at a house that you're like, for like me and my best friend and our kids would go, so it was family time, and that was always the week that we picked, so it worked out for us. But back to dry heat versus moist heat, I cannot. Okay. When when you have swamp ass, like just walking out the door, you're hit with what feels like, you know, just oppressive. I feel like I can't breathe. And we know that I'm an anxious woman as it is, but if I'm looking at my albuterol inhaler and thinking to myself, Is today the day you're not going to be able to fix this? Because you're hit with just it is heavy on you. That's so different than when you're out in Arizona and be 120 degrees, but I'm going to go lay on a rock because it's dry.
I'd rather be in that weather as I have been when it gets to 110 rather than 90 and heavy humidity in Florida. You go out west, they use irrigation. So, they'll use literally moist irrigation that'll come down and humidifiers and misters, and it will dry in the air, but it will cool the air down, 15, 20 degrees right there. It's just the weather there is 1,000 times better than the hellacious humidity in Florida. Like you say, I mean, you can choke on the air when you're in the deep South in August. And there's that 30 to 40 minutes every day. You can set your watch by around 3 o'clock. It's just going to pour. And then an hour later, the ground is dry. It's kind of crazy.
Yeah. Did you see any animals that were interesting to you? Because Florida always, for me, brings up some sort of unlocked fear of a bug, of a reptile.
Well, you see lots of bugs that you could, put a harness on and ride if you wanted to. The humidity, I think, grows those things.
Prehistoric.
We saw deer. I mean, we often see deer. Sometimes you see bears in Central Florida, believe it or not. But this time, no alligators, nothing like that.
Oh,
no. But
wonderful.
Yeah,
well, thank you.
Yeah.
And how was your mom? I know you got to stop at mom's.
Yeah, we stopped there. That's part of the tour as well. Yeah, very good.
Hi, Mrs. Bederow.
Yes.
She's a lovey. I think she is the best that ever lived. Maybe you don't know, but if you don't know, I may have got to go to supper one time with Mike Crawford and with Mrs. Bederow and with the good Auntie Bev, as we affectionately call her, at Kowloon in Saugus. Oop, can't tell us anything. We had a poo-poo for tutu and several other things, and it was delightful. What a great, doesn't that bring all the nostalgia, Kowloon?
Yeah, I mean, it's kitschy, but good Chinese, and it's just kind of, it's the place to go up there. I like to go there every time I can.
Well, maybe we'll hit it soon. Okay, won't say anything.
Yeah, you never know.
So onto the shit that everyone came for, and that would be any effery afoot. Well, I don't need to really kind of block myself or censor here because it's our house, but there has been some things that have gone on in the Commonwealth since I have spoken to you last for a Sunday service, and I want all the takes. I want the caffeinated Mr.Bederow to lay down the law in the way that we have come to know and love. So starting with, let's roulette this and say there was an update on Thursday for the Kelsey Fitz Simmons case, just the brief synopsis, that there was a young woman, 28 years old. She was a police officer in North Andover. She received a protective order on her by her, I guess he was a firefighter fiance, because she had gotten to an altercation with him. Long story short, the 3 police officers from her own department, which she was on leave at that time for postpartum depression, come to her house to take her baby from her. And she drops her basket at that time. She gives over the baby, 4 months old at the time. And she reaches for a weapon and goes to harm herself. At that time, a officer that was in the room with her ends up shooting her in the chest, and she ends up going to prison, to jail. After she goes to the hospital, they had to do multiple surgeries on her. You shot her in the chest. And there's question because she said that she only put it to her head, and he says she was pointing it at him. Neither here nor there. Realistically, she was the one who was shot. Tim Bradel goes in and does God's work. Your cohort, your colleague, and the second part of the Dapper Dudes goes in, makes a case, says all the shits, and is like, are you people out of your tree? Okay. Have you lost your proverbial minds for you to sit here and try to accuse this woman of attempted murder when she is the one that is shot, right? So she ends up getting, she gets bail on Thursday, huge. And the grand jury in Essex County found a no true bill on that, attempted murder with a deadly weapon. And that's a win for Massachusetts. That's a win for a grand jury. That is a win for the right thing, that even though those charges were brought by that Essex County DA, that it didn't go further, but she's still facing a charge, Mr. Bederow. And I wanted to know, do you think that that will actually be able to move forward, or like, will they end up dropping it because it's all insane in the long run?
I don't know. I mean, it's way too early to know. I don't know that much about it. I mean, I've had a few, casual conversations, clearly with Tim about it, but nothing deep. I've read what I've read. It did appear to be substantially overcharged from the jump. The grand jury apparently recognized that and returned a much lesser indictment, serious nonetheless. All kinds of issues, both in terms of the facts of the case and clearly the state of mind of the accused and the mitigating factors with, issues over children and postpartum, which is, very serious thing.
So serious.
And ought to be factored in just in terms of, even if there is a provable case, what's right, what's wrong. But, there's going to be a long way to go with that. But she's not going to be fighting the case from a jail cell or facing an attempted murder indictment. So already, the narrative has changed, and she's in a much, much better position than it would have appeared she was originally. She clearly hired great counsel. It's working. So, you just have to let it play out a little more. It's a different county than Norfolk. I don't know anything at all about that DA's office other than it's, the North Shore, whatever. I wouldn't assume just because one DA's office is involved in kinds of shenanigans or has no credibility in the public's perspective that necessarily means that everything up there is no good. That's not fair to the office. It's not fair to the cops. I don't know. I don't know enough about it, but it does sound like that at least the case has somewhat steady and is on a much better path and trajectory than it might have been on when she was arrested and being treated hyper aggressively by the prosecutor.
Yeah, it leaves so much of a just taste in your mouth of sadness for me, just as somebody who is a registered nurse in Massachusetts and who deals with mental health, and seeing those cracks in our policies, our procedures, and our policing. And especially, it just breaks my heart knowing that she was a police officer, and that the rules and regulations, our policies and procedures put in place should have involved a CIT, right? So it's an intervention for a police officer. 20% of the police force should have their crisis intervention training. And it's like, who was there to de-escalate? Why was no one from DSS? I just have questions of how it was executed after that protective order was given.
Yeah, and again, I don't know enough about it, but,
right?
The police officer, not the defendant police officer, the alleged victim police officer, was he wearing body camera? Who knows? Well, these are issues too. Whether that was proper procedure or not, police are supposed to activate body cameras and these kinds of things. Why wasn't that done here? I don't know. It may or may not mean anything, but that would have been the best evidence to establish what happened. And, that's a curious fact that will have to be dealt with. But, you have to let the system play out. And
yes,
part of the problem that people have with everything, that you've covered and others have covered in the last year and a half, is that people are predetermined to just assume, I don't trust law enforcement in certain things. And that's just kind of one of the problematic byproducts of the whole fiasco that's been going on a little bit south of Essex County, for the past couple of years.
Yeah, it's so true. And we have to always remember that. And I love that you always tell us, Mr. Bederow, that just because there is a bad apple and there are very strong concerns that of fumigation that should be taking place in the Norfolk DA's office, that we cannot allow that history and lived experience to seep into every county and every interaction, because there are so many more good than bad, right? In all of those positions.
Most prosecutors are honorable people who do that to do the right thing. Same with the police. And if they're not, then you're going to live in a chaotic society where the society will be destined to fail and doomed to failure if you can't literally have law and order. So just because there's a few bad apples, and certainly more than a few, perhaps, again, in Norfolk, that doesn't mean that everywhere else that prosecute. And I'm not vouching for the prosecutors in this case either. I know
Right.
nothing about them, but I don't literally go in with the presumption that in that case or other parts of Massachusetts, that something nefarious has to be going on with the way they're handling the case. That case did appear overcharged. It did appear to be over aggressive. It does appear to have a series of red flags. But why is that? I don't know. I don't assume it's because of corruption or anything like that until the facts tell me to assume that. And I just don't know enough about it right now to know whether that's the case or not.
Yeah. And I feel like for me, and just to wrap it up, is that for this one, it's that there was also another part, because there's always a story behind the story. There's one side, there's another side, and then there's the truth. And you do know that there is a collective shared memory of specifically Kelsey Fitz Simmons and the police officer that shot her in the chest. They were partners, and they had, a year before, while Kelsey was pregnant, responded to a call where a woman who was suffering from postpartum ended up self-harming and unaliving herself in front of them. Now she's pregnant at this time. He has responded to that. This is a trauma that they are going through together, right? What was the aftercare for our police officers? What did this is where I say, as a mental health advocate, it's like, I really question, just what are we doing? And when we're putting when people are put in those situations of the worst day of people's lives all the time, whether you're a first responder as a nurse, a firefighter, or a police officer, you are seeing such traumatic events in people's lives on a regular basis that the aftercare really needs to catch up, because you having natural responses or you going into being triggered by something when you're put in a similar situation can be a detriment to our communities.
It can. And I mean, certainly there's no more stressful job than police officer. There's no more thankless job. They get, the stuff they deal with and have to respond to and see. And they need, it's also not easy to say that somebody might need help when they're in a job that tough, if you will. You always have to be tough, but there are major mental health concerns with that profession. And unfortunately, I mean, like the rate of suicide, for example, for police officers, I'm sure is much higher than the average in other professions. I mean, at least 3 or 4 or more times a year out here, we read about an NYPD officer, whether on duty or off duty, commit suicide. And, nobody sees it coming. Nobody knows how or why. And they certainly need, to be treated and cared for like anyone else. And in this situation, you have a potential perfect storm of bad. You have a woman who is pregnant, is going through personal issues with, parenting. And then, you add the wild card of postpartum depression, which is something, nobody can predict. I mean,
No.
it happens. It's not like you can say in advance when this one gives birth, she's going to go through these things, but it's a very real thing. And so to have, a young pregnant female officer, which is a man's profession anyway, going through relationship problems and then suffers postpartum depression. I mean, you could see a perfect storm of what can lead to just a bad situation. And all of these things have got to be factored in to what happens here, whether they have a provable case or not. The idea that they were going to keep, a 28-year-old, obviously suffering mental health crisis, female police officer in jail indefinitely pending trial was ridiculous. Now, there could be other concerns, I get it, about releasing people in the public, whether it relates to children or whatever. But the answer in this situation is not lock her up, throw away the key, and see her for trial in a year and hope for the best. I mean, that was just an atrocious way to handle it. And that appears not to be the case anymore. And the grand jury at least modified the situation. So, I mean, I have great faith clearly in her counsel, and I'm sure ultimately the right thing will happen in that situation, whatever that is.
Yes. And it is another example just of me seeing specifically Tim Bradel and you stepping up for women, for mental health, for First Amendment, for all the things that we want to see in the future and like that we don't want to see have repeat. And it's just shocking to me that in 2025 that the mental health card is still so friggin' fucked, if you will. Like it's so still stigmatized to a point where, if 1 in 3 women have baby blues, right? And then 1 in 5 can get postpartum depression, and then much higher, but you could go into a postpartum psychosis, like of Lindsay Clancy, another terrifying case out of Duxbury, Massachusetts, a registered nurse, a maternity nurse, unalived 3 of her 3 children in a potential, her defense is a postpartum psychosis. And it's that voice of the fear, even if you have sought treatment. And like Kelsey she was out for her postpartum depression. She's literally on leave at that time when they come to her house and take her baby from her arms. And then you see that, like in Lindsay's case, she had been the week before at McLean Hospital, the best mental health hospital in the United States of America. If you ask me, McLean's is it. It has changed people's lives. It has done an incredible job. It is the gold star in this country. And you just still can't predict outcomes because you were only allowed to have a week there. And then you get sent home and you're on a cocktail of meds. And are they going to work? We don't know.
Well, these mental health cases can be different too.
Yeah.
I mean, there's a big discrepancy, if you will, between Fitz Simmons and Clancy. I mean, Clancy
Totally.
is the nightmare doomsday scenario where
Family annihilator. Yeah.
fairly ill woman, whether that's excusable in a legal sense or not, that's for, ultimately a jury to determine. But she harmed her kids. In Fitzsimmons, in addition to her mitigating circumstances and perhaps sympathy for her, there is a major factual dispute about what happened and what her intent was, and that's very different. But ultimately, it's up to the prosecutors to do the right thing. And I've had a fair share of these mental health disaster cases, and they're tough. I mean, I had last year a terrible murder case in Queens County, New York, where a kid had in his early 20s had a psychotic break, which is traditionally the age if it's going to happen.
Yes.
A lot of synthetic marijuana, a lot of other things that it was a perfect storm of bad. And his parents tried to help him, and he ended up murdering his father right in front of his mother. Um, and he was being prosecuted for murder. He's facing life in prison, and he clearly had a psychotic break, and in a legal sense was not himself. And every now and then the prosecutors surprise you. We presented all the scientific, medical,
Yeah.
psychiatric data. I mean, this guy had probably 4,000 pages of medical records from months at Bellevue, which, is the New York
Yes.
mental health place. And, the DA evaluated him and they agreed. They ultimately agreed that he was, not criminally responsible.
Wow.
On the other hand, I have another one where a kid in his early 20s, this is ongoing right now, came back from his first semester in college at age 19 or 20
Yeah.
and ended up murdering his father, his brother, and his father's girlfriend out of nowhere, and clearly had some kind of break. And that case is in Bronx County and is currently, working its way through. What do you do? If you're the DA, the judge, whatever, and that's similar to like this Clancy thing. I mean, the facts are not really in dispute. The issue is, what do you do? And
Right.
the law is not equipped to deal with the terrible situation where you have specific facts which are unconscionable, awful, the worst possible consequences. But if you have someone who literally is not aware of the consequences of their actions, or doesn't know at that moment, the difference between right and wrong, the classic insanity. It's not really
Insanity plea. Yeah.
the words the courts use anymore. Actually, New York uses very politically incorrect language. They talk about mental disease or defect, which is
Oh.
not the most politically correct term in
Oh.
2025 for this. But these kinds of things happen everywhere, and you do have to factor in an accused's mental state and whether there is legally a way that they did not have the intent to do what they did. But, as far as Fitzsimmons, we'll see. But what makes that case more interesting in terms of the
Legally.
case itself, right, is there's a factual dispute there. So putting aside whether they ought to be factoring that in, I mean, her position is you're not treating me right in terms of what you claim happened. Most of these other cases are very different. These are just, what do we do in a horrible, horrible situation? And, ultimately there's roles for everyone. There's roles for the prosecutor, a judge, jury, which way it goes. And you hope, as happened certainly in one of my cases, that you get a prosecutor who agrees with you. But if that's not the case, then you get into a very, very contentious, very nasty, very emotional court proceeding. But we'll see.
Absolutely. And switching gears a little bit from that, but thank you so much for kind of putting a legal take on that, because I think for me and loveys and just people that are not in the legal system, it's emotionally charging for me. It's an emotionally charging as somebody who has, taken an oath to do no harm to others, like to see the outcomes, or to feel as though the system is just failing so many people, like with substance use disorder, or uh, you know mental health concerns, a schizophrenic episode. You can have decompensation of any kind is just so difficult, and the resources and community outreach is limited, and it's shameful to me for in the Commonwealth specifically, because it's like, with all the money and all the grants and all the shits, right, that Maura Healey is doling out to everyone, you sit there and it's like, this is not still being treated with the with the seriousness that it should be is disturbing. And the only way that we can change that is what? Through our votes, and to physically make the changes and to show up and to know what the laws are coming down the pike, and like, hey, oh, this bill is coming up, and just to try to educate ourselves the best that we can to make better outcomes for everyone. Because if there is better community outreach and management, then we could prevent, in my opinion, tragedy from occurring, because it's when we are not allowing those systems and we're not funding systems to be put in place for our community to reach out to, then you're never going to reach out, right? Like, you're never going to reach out if you don't have a place to call and you are afraid of ramifications, including being jailed, because that shouldn't be what the solution in any case, in my opinion.
Yeah, I mean, the solution can never be just throw someone away unless they are, an intentional
Yes.
criminal who does something terrible. And I think again, not knowing the full circumstances
Right.
of Fitz Simmons, the only red flag that I would throw out there right away is the idea of having her jailed pending trial for months and months, potentially longer, on this fact pattern, given the factual dispute, given the mental health issues, given the sympathy, given everyone knows that postpartum is a real thing.
Very real.
It is a very aggressive posture that the Essex DA took, and it's nice to see that they were checked twice, frankly, both by a court and by a grand jury, and that goes hand in hand. That certainly helps your bail argument when the ham sandwich that got indicted didn't have the mustard and cheese on it, apparently.
Well, and to think about that, right? Ballsy. Well, not really, but like that, if the old saying and the adage is that you can indict a ham sandwich, but you didn't even bring, you forgot the bread, you didn't even bring a piece of Wonder Bread, and that this grand jury was like, what are you talking about? Like, what? We can't, I don't see that here. That feels very like just relieving to me, because I didn't know, I didn't assume that it would come back as a no true bill, to be perfectly clear.
I mean, look, it's especially in a place like Massachusetts, which has very lax rules of evidence before a grand jury. I mean, even in New York, there are rules of evidence that make it harder as it relates to hearsay and other things. In Massachusetts, like the federal system as well, all bets are off, and they can just throw hearsay at the wall and do all kinds of things. And the percentage of indictments, which, I mean, look, in my experience, it's got to be 99.7% or more. It's just unheard of for things to not get indicted. But, you go to Massachusetts and you do see kind of regular no true bills, or more than usual, whether it be on certain counts or even entire cases, as you saw with, Aiden and Karen a year and a half. It makes you think about, maybe it's a judgment question by the prosecutors in charges more than anything else.
Totally. And speaking of mental, like just a different case though, are you following Adelson?
Not really. I mean, enough to know that, it's a Florida law professor who, was murdered by a hitman, allegedly hired by his family, and how many tentacles of the family are involved. And I know the most interesting thing is the ex-wife, who's also a lawyer. Beyond that, what I know about it is what I see randomly online. And just to give you an idea of how little I know, the biggest thing I know about that case is our friend Jimmy went to watch it. More than I see stuff online. I've watched none of it, so I don't know anything.
Okay.
I see people are saying that the defense lawyers are a disaster.
Ooh, Tom Petty.
The prosecutors are wonderful. I don't know much about it. What little I do, it appears to be a pretty strong case. I see that they're calling multiple jailhouse snitches.
Oh,
Never liked that, by the way. Again, you'd have to really pass a credibility test for me to do that. But I don't know much about it. I'm not a true crime
right.
aficionado. I mean, I do true crime for a living. So there are certain situations which I find more interesting than others. I'm not uninterested in it, but contrary to all my, detractors and people who just love me so much in criticizing me, I do have a job and do things other than, talk to nice people like you about whatever. So I don't know much about Adelson to give anything even remotely intelligent analysis other than it's crazy if the mother did give her jailhouse snitch friend. I did see, a script to say, and it's crazy, but I also don't understand why these cases are that interesting when they're open and shut. I mean, there's no controversy as far as I can tell from the 2 minutes that I saw. Again, the biggest controversy was, whether that was like Jimmy in drag or not when he was in
Misdemeanor. I had her on. I had the woman who actually was, her name is Ms. Janet Demeanor. She is as lovely as the day is long. And that blew up my timeline. Like all of my algorithm was who is Jimmy in drag in that courtroom. But nope, our Jimberly, speaking of mental health, was taking a 20-hour nap that day. So he was not feeling well. And he was not there.
I mean, I know nothing about it other than that. And if you ask me, to analyze anything legally, because I just know nothing about it.
Well, so I didn't follow it either at all. So this was me. I thought to myself, I was like, oh, it would be so great if I covered this trial because now it's Donna and I am going to see it with like a fresh set of eyes, unlike the people that have been following this for 11 years and they've seen Sigfredo and Luis and Katie McBanawa go down. And then Charlie Adelson, her son, has gone down. So I go, oh, I'm bringing a new perspective. Oh, don't do that. God forbid, don't do that because you're an asshole, Kim, and you don't know shit about shit because I don't know the last 4 trials. Well, babes, I'm a juror.
I don't know anything about it. I mean, if I were, again, I'm not even going to try to go down the rabbit hole. I don't know why, if this murder happened in 2014 and given what it apparently is, why the hell it took so long. But again, I assume it'll be over soon.
Yes, probably next week, end of next week.
This Ma Barker, whoever she is, the matriarch of this clan of loonies, presumably will be convicted, and then everyone will look at each other and say, "What's for lunch?" And it's next.
Right. No, that's so true. And there is one kind of question that doesn't need you to know the trial, but more of there's a lot of talk now. Now, people have speculated forever that Wendy Adelson, the wife, right, the lawyer, who was the wife.
Sure.
Yeah, no, I just was wondering, do you think that there's been a lot that's come out in this trial, and especially, I guess their estranged son, Rob, broke my heart. He got up and testified, and he hadn't spoken to his family since 2014 and he ended up going to the FBI and was like, this is weird because my family is not I'm seeing shit on the news of them, of what had happened here. And no one is there was a lack of curiosity and a lack of discussion that was uncomfortable for him. So long story short, though, he gets up, he is talking and spilling what happened on the inside that has never come out in any of the other trials. But Wendy has kind of put herself in a position where now that this is so many trials deep, she does have immunity, qualified immunity from the DA and the state. However, if she puts herself in a hole, or if there are lies and there are connections and correlations because other people say that Wendy knew, they could, in theory, still indict her as a co-conspirator on this at any point they so choose if they had the case, correct?
Well, if somebody has what you're describing without calling it limited use immunity, I mean, all that really means is they can't use what you say against you. But if they generate independent evidence of your guilt, then, here we go. But we're
Okay.
not going to use what you say in a proffer session or compelled testimony or whatnot against you, which is different from transactional immunity, which is a full, off you go. You can't be prosecuted. So there are different types of immunity that agreements in different types of jurisdictions. There's no way that this woman, I assume, would have been given transactional immunity. It definitely would have been limited use and just, again, not allow her statements to be used. And depending on how they do their immunity agreements, whether we won't use your statements to generate specifically other evidence from that. But if we independently develop evidence against you, we have every right to come after you. And of course, if you lie or perjure yourself, you're not going to be immune from that, notwithstanding, you can't perjure yourself as part of any kind of immunity agreement.
Right. Yeah. So that there it is on the Adelson update. Hopefully that trial allegedly will be ending probably by the end of next week. And we'll see where that goes. But you made a comment a couple of weeks ago on my show, and you said that somebody, and listen, you can tell me to pound sand because I'll go pound it. But if there were a comment made about the Clintons and about the crosshairs that the Clintons may be in, is there any way that we could maybe talk about anything generally?
What did I say about the Clintons? I see you're obviously trying to connect this to what I said about Epstein and Matt.
Yes. Why don't we just go through for anybody who is not really 100% understanding the Epstein? Can you break it down and what may be coming next, and if the Clintons are involved in any way that you would have any information on?
Well, we can talk about this with key guardrails, of course.
Yes.
The first is, names are at a minimum here.
Okay.
The Clintons, whatever. Number two, this can't be political. I've discussed some of this Epstein Maxwell stuff in analyzing what's going on. And let me be very clear. It's not political for me. I don't care. Okay. I'm not interested in having these people attack me as a MAGA Trumper or somebody who either defending or criticizing Trump. I don't care. Okay. Also, you have to understand that from my perspective, I'm involved in this. I'm not talking about this just as someone who is interested in it, which I am. It's fascinating subject material, but there are terrible, terrible uncharged crimes going on, okay, that relate to historical sex trafficking involving very high profile people that go beyond Jeffrey Epstein. And one of the things that I said, to Mike the other night was the only reason we're talking about Epstein is because the people that are talking about all of this on a macro level are looking at it politically. So they use Epstein because they want to associate a dead pedophile with Donald Trump or the Clintons or this. And so it becomes a litmus test on what you think about Trump. Epstein, 1,000% is involved in the stuff that I'm dealing with, but he's a dead pedophile. So he doesn't matter. There's nothing you can do to him. Okay. He is what he is. His girlfriend, colleague, whatever the hell you want to call Ghislaine Maxwell, who, according to her interview recently, which is available online, and I encourage everyone to look at it. really doesn't have a great description of her relationship with Epstein either, is a convicted sex trafficker for participating in setting up and helping raping women, some of whom are underage. And that's true, full stop. So I'm not, again, whatever your political beliefs are and her role, she is a criminal. She is a convicted criminal. She is rightfully convicted, and she's not going to get pardoned. And here come the people that say, oh my God, Trump or this or that. Ghislaine Maxwell is not going to get pardoned. It's not going to happen because she is a criminal. She has been convicted of crimes, and she is exposed for uncharged crimes for which there is no statute of limitations. And if you look at the transcripts of her interviews that she gave with the Justice Department, again, forget the politics and what you read in the press and what political pundits tell you. Go to the source. Go look at the transcripts. And if you look at the transcripts or listen to them, you'll see it was Ghislaine Maxwell who requested that meeting with the Justice Department. And you know what? That's a brilliant move. It's not going to do anything ultimately what they think it is on her part, because she read the political tea leaves, saw the controversy, and pounced on it as a way to, suck
Distraction.
up, if you will, thinking maybe I can get the Justice Department under this administration to help me if I say I don't know anything about Trump. That's what her lawyers and her are thinking. You can't fault them for that. But this is so much larger and so much bigger than Ghislaine Maxwell's relationship with Jeffrey Epstein. Okay. In the grand scheme of all of this, we're talking about small potatoes. What matters here are Maxwell's knowledge and or involvement with other very high profile rapists and sex traffickers who are very much alive and who should be prosecuted and sent to die in a federal prison. And the problem for those individuals is that the federal statutes that would apply here, they have no statutes of limitations, which means, anything you did in the 1990s, if there's a viable, provable case, then, buckle up, cowboy, because you can be prosecuted for that. The other things is, when you look at the federal sex crime statutes, 18 USC 1591, you look at what they call the Mann Act, 24, 21, 22, and 23. In addition to having no statute of limitations, sex trafficking in certain situations calls for a life sentence. These Mann Act violations, which essentially are just federal rape statutes that involve interstate or international movement of people, they can call up for 30 years. So these people are practically and literally facing life sentences, but none of this should be about Jeffrey Epstein. Epstein is a footnote, a disgrace, but he's just a dead pedophile. There are many, many people out there who have done things that people are aware of and that there is evidence of both domestically and internationally. Let me be clear about that hopefully in due course will be prosecuted. And if people are interested in that and are obsessed over who's on the list or not, if you're honest to the analysis and the process, then what you need to do is check your political opinions and bias, because if you're going to go where the evidence goes, you can't look at, Trump's, Clinton's, Democrats, Republicans, that sort of thing. You go where the evidence goes. And if you're going to go down that rabbit hole, then brace yourself, because you're not going to like what you find. You're not going to like the people that you find, whether they be politicians, actors, musicians, other entertainers, world leaders, business titans. It's ugly. And
that's why I thought he didn't release it in, okay. And this, maybe this is like conspiracy-ish, but correct me if I'm wrong. Like, I was thinking if the list, I was like, there'd be too many people.
There is no list. The list.
There is no list.
The list. I mean, there are files about him, obviously. And again, Epstein is such a small part of what I'm talking about. But again,
like sand. Yeah.
media has created this image of a list. And so the question is, what the hell do we even mean by list? The idea that people are using the term list as if one day Jeff
He wrote a
Epstein
list. Yeah, yeah.
better to do and said, what I'm going to do is write down all my high profile, co-rapists and dirtbags and scumbags and just make a list because I'm going to blackmail them someday. That's not how this works. Now, are there flight manifests? Whatever. But let me be clear. I'm not talking about Epstein Island or what happened in Palm Beach or anything. No, I don't care about that. I'm talking about other things, other crimes committed by living, breathing, powerful people who did other things that hopefully, in the near future will be prosecuted for that.
And the correlation would be that they are in the same circle as Epstein, because again, this is a dead, rapist and pedophile who met his demise. However, this exposed it's connected in what way then? Like, what are we saying? There is no connection.
There is and there isn't.
Okay.
There are uncharged crimes, absolutely, that involve Jeffrey Epstein and Ghislaine Maxwell and others. But there are also others of these high, powerful, well-known people who often committed their own disgraceful, disgusting, despicable crimes without Jeffrey Epstein.
Noted.
But do they all know each other? Of course they do. But
that's terrifying.
But Epstein, and when people talk about the Epstein list and they phrase this whole discussion about Epstein, that is the media and that is the political part of the discussion. This is so much bigger and way beyond Epstein. And you're talking about years and years and years of sadistic abuse by people that all of you really respect and like in all walks of life. And, it's coming for them. It's just a matter of when.
Oh. Okay, my head is spinning and I'm going to figure out how to ask a question from there that is not specific. Do you feel that there will be justice, like our justice system, on these people, these high powerful people that we respect in like sports or media or whatever it is, or government? Do you believe that there will be charges upon this organization or non-organization or ring of assholes?
Yes. And there will be accountability in any number of ways. There are many ways in which high profile personalities who commit horrible crimes against innocent women, children, victims, whatnot, can be held accountable. But certainly the best way is the full force and power of the U.S. Justice Department, who, again, armed with these criminal statutes, armed with the FBI, armed with, hopefully doing the right thing and with an eye towards getting the right people without consideration of who they are. And, everyone has an assumption because they read the news and they say, oh, this is all, Ghislaine Maxwell moved to a new prison. So, she's clearly getting a pardon. That's what the media tells you. Okay. That's not necessarily how the real world works.
Noted. And I'm so sorry, I always called her Ghislaine. That's probably weird. I thought her name was Ghislaine, but Ghislaine or Ghislaine. Would there be an ability for, or would you want? I know that she's gone and utilized the Justice Department thinking that or asked for the meeting because she thought that she wanted to pounce on the publicity of it. Is there an opportunity, though, although she has already been convicted of her crimes, and she is a criminal. Full stop. She is a criminal.
Rightfully so.
Rightfully convicted.
Yes.
Do we want more? Could you get more? Does she know more? Do you know that she knows more that's not Epstein related because of her, like, her kind of liaison? I feel like she was a woman predator that was a liaison of, like, getting women and young people to feel like they could trust, because, like, instead of, if you have spidey senses coming up of, like, I'm not going somewhere with men, she is there to disarm you and participating and doing all the fucked up shit. But
Well,
would
without
she
saying
have more?
too many details, obviously. One of the reasons why Ghislaine Maxwell is never going to get pardoned is because she has exposure for uncharged crimes for which there's no statute of limitations and which one could get a life sentence. Okay. Two,
Noted.
she was not sworn in her statements to the Justice Department, which is regrettable. And no doubt was a condition of her lawyer, which is fine. That's good lawyering. However, she was given what we call 1001 warnings about lying to the feds, and two, has to be credible. Based on what, again, I don't want to get into too many details. Read her transcripts, okay? It is.
Where can I find those, Mr. Bederow? Did you post them on X?
I did. I'm sure I did, or a link.
Okay.
I'll send them to you. It is my well-considered opinion, and I think that there's substantial reason for this opinion, that she was not truthful in what she told the Justice Department about her knowledge of certain things, whether it involves herself, Epstein, or other living, breathing people. I think, her lawyer made some public statements about how candid and forthright and truthful she was, and I assume he believes that. I just don't think he may know what else is out there. So, her credibility isn't great. And you also have to remember the fact she is a documented liar. She was indicted for perjury in her other case. Okay. She has repeatedly lied. She sought this meeting. Okay. She spoke to them and basically said that I don't know much of anything, although in hindsight, I recognize that Jeffrey Epstein is a bad guy. Okay. This is self-serving, not persuasive, and not consistent with a lot of things that would make her a viable witness or would help her current situation, which is 20 years in prison, or protect her in the event that future charges are filed against other people, going forward, for which she and others may face, as I said, life sentences.
Wow. And if, without specifics, if you were a betting man, how long do you think it would be before this might come to light, that we would be able to know what has gone on and what it was coming to be?
I'm not a betting man, and it would be inappropriate to even discuss it because, again,
noted. Sorry.
No, it's fine. I'm not commenting as just some kind of outside analyst. There are very important federal crimes that have been committed against people by very powerful people. And all we can hope for is that ultimately those will be properly investigated, prosecuted, these people, brought to justice again here and or abroad, wherever these things happen, and will be punished accordingly. But it would be inappropriate, I think, for me to suggest timelines or specifics.
And if it were abroad, Mr. Bederow, if there are international ties, what does that look like? How do we, just for somebody who does not literally know, but like, could you explain the process? Because I know that, like, certain countries have extradition, other countries do not have extradition. If we charge somebody with a crime,
unfortunately, for these dirtbags, the statutes that we're talking about involve, they're federal crimes, and, federal jurisdiction is limited. You can't charge every crime that is traditionally charged in state court and federal court.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
Have either crossing state lines or affects interstate commerce. It's limited. That's part of federalism. But the beauty is, federal jurisdiction in these crimes that we're talking about, 1591 and the Mann Act, involve interstate or international transport. So,
Okay.
unfortunately for these sick people, they can't hide by, committing an act where someone is trafficked by being moved from one country or one state to another, and then say, I'm going to hide in this country. They'll be brought over. Okay. If the United States Justice Department wants to prosecute American citizens and others for these kinds of crimes for which there is jurisdiction in America, they're coming over.
They're coming. Okay.
Coming over the way they're used to coming over in first class. If they try to hide out, they're coming over in shackles and going to, the god awful, MDC in Brooklyn, which is, probably the shittiest federal jail in the country right now, not prison, jail, which is not where Epstein was when he died. He was in the Manhattan one, which is now closed. But anyway, the fact that there are international components to this doesn't do any of them any good.
Okay. Yeah, that is I would like to, I'm going to go and try to read or listen to the transcripts at least, because I am behind on it. And again, I think it's so smart, Mr. Bederow, for you to remind everyone that although we are kind of divided in our Republican or Democratic, whatever your stance is for how you vote, some things are bigger than that. And as Americans and as, citizens, we need to stand for victims.
I'm glad you said that, because I can tell you my involvement in this, which is, going on for some time now, has been easily the most disgusting thing I've been involved with professionally at all. I mean, this is so horrifying, so outrageous, and it goes on and again, without getting too much into the details. And to see some of the comments of, this is just all about, Trump doing this, or I love Trump, I hate Trump, or accusing me of being some political, opportunist. I don't care who's involved in this. Okay. There's somebody, that I represent, who I care for greatly, who's been victimized in this. And we go where we go, wherever it leads. And I have a pretty good idea and know a lot where it leads. But who cares about if you believe in justice, if you believe in going after these people, do you really care if it's a Democrat or Republican? If you do, you're a fraud. Okay. You either care about getting these people, these animals, or you don't. And that's it. You go where it goes, and it's horrible, and it affects you. I lose sleep over this, and it changes your personal habits too. I mean, when I had to delete my playlist, as they say, there are certain things I can't listen to. There are people who may be in movies. I can't watch this stuff. I mean, you become a part of this. There are things you see on TV. You have to turn it off, because you only look at these people now as sadistic monsters, nothing else.
Wow. Oh my gosh. Yeah. And for it to affect your personal life and your practices it just shows you how intense and how bad it all has been. And I'm so sorry for your client. And, that's just, no one should have to go through terrible things, but this, the trafficking and raping and just sadistic practices of powerful men should be stopped, and I think at any cost. And I think that it needs to be, and women.
Not
Sorry.
men.
Oh jeez. Oh god. Okay, so it's not just Ghislaine. It's not just Ghislaine. I'm going to be not being able to watch my.
Elaine's not a man, obviously.
Well,
but
I know, but like I'm thinking of people like ladies that I watch or listen to. Great. That is, and geez, you never know, man. Like, see, and that's the scary thing is like, where are we living in this world today that like for our children, our boys and girls growing up, it's like, that's why you taking a stand and you participating in what you have and you going where it leads you is so important. And that's why to me, I don't care. I know you're not going to accept it, but you're my hero. And that's why you are my emotional support attorney. And because I know that you put 110% in every fucking day and you do not stop because you believe and you are convicted in the ethical and principles in which you took your oath to, uphold our justice and legal system. And I appreciate you.
Well, thanks. I mean, look, this thing, it will challenge your faith in the whole political and entertainment world that you grew up in. You know what I'm saying? Like you people want to believe that certain people, they look up to them, they're heroes, they're influential, and you realize that it's all a persona, and that behind the curtain, some of these people, not all of them, obviously, a lot of people are, who you believe they are, but a lot of these people are absolute sadistic monsters. That's just what it is. And, times may have been different back then, but you're dealing with people who did terrible things back then, and today will try to do things to protect their image and do anything they can to make sure they don't get caught. And when they do get caught, it's going to shock the conscience of the public. It's going to shock their families. It's going to shock their children. It's going to shock their checkbook. It's just going to shock everyone. I mean, it is what it is, but that's not a reason not to pursue and hold accountable these people by saying, well, it was a long time ago.
No. Yeah. And that doesn't matter. Absolutely. I agree, because I think of, realistically, you think of the victims and you think of, okay, you might have to the perpetrators, like, oh, it might not affect your life today, but think about these people who, have had to live with it for every single day of their life and every moment of their waking lives. So giddy the fuck up, in part of my French, but what is coming for anyone is not only Department of Justice and this country's justice, but it's karmic as well. And to the people who have been harmed, they'll never be whole. There is no amount of money, or there is no amount of you putting someone in jail that can give you back what people have taken from you if they have taken it. And in sadistic and creepy and rapey ways, like, you deserve, to the people who have done it, they deserve everything that is coming, in my opinion.
Yeah. And, again, just there's a process to this. It has to play itself out. And, you just hope that it does play itself out in a fair and just way. And, as the famous man once said, let justice be done, though the heavens may fall, as Saul Goodman, amongst others, said. And, not to make light of this in the context of, a television fake lawyer, but you have to pursue and do the right thing, though it will shake the very core and foundation of, the culture of the country and the politics of the country. That's not a reason to not hold these people accountable. You have to do it.
Loveys, I love you so much. Please don't put any names in the chat because clearly Mr. Bederow is not going to say anybody's name or confirm nor deny anything. So you could discuss amongst yourselves afterwards, but not during class. Thank you. Not during service, Loveys.
You can put as much or not as you want. I'm not going to comment on names clearly about anything.
Of course. And is there anything else that you are able to say or that you would be interested in discussing, Mr. Bederow, regarding kind of that, or no? You are on the guardrails.
But I think it's important, again, when people see the stuff in the news, that they know what the hell they're talking about, or at least look into it. I mean, so again, with like the Maxwell stuff, go read the transcripts, and people who were screaming and yelling saying, oh my God, they gave her immunity. We talked about this earlier. They gave her what's called queen for a day proper, which is similar to what you were talking about in Adelson. They basically told her, whatever you tell us today, we won't use against you in the event that we prosecute you. That's standard. That's normal. Any defendant who proffers with a prosecutor, in essence, gets queen for a day immunity. So in other words, Ghislaine Maxwell got nothing for speaking to them. Now, one could argue, but she got transferred to a better prison. That appears to be true. I don't know what that's all about. And frankly, at least today, don't care. But she didn't get immunity. What she got was, we're not going to come back if we do prosecute you in the future and say, you told us on July so-and-so 2025 this. At the same time, they read her the 1001 warnings, and she could be prosecuted for making false statements to them, which she almost assuredly did. I mean, I'm telling you, from what I read, she did. But whether, that's a thing for them to do or not, but she didn't get anything from talking to them. So when people say, oh my God, they gave her immunity or they promised her this, that's what
queen for a day.
That's what they tell you in the news. Go to the original source. It's available. Read it.
Well, and also for all of us who have been screaming from the top of our lungs for, even on a much smaller scale, right, for our local situation or cases or things that have come to our attention when we've been red pilled, to death here, it's that the mainstream media will do what the mainstream media will do, but that does not equal transparency, truth, and shooting you straight. We know that, Loveys. We know that, in my opinion.
Well, again, the public looks at it from a political standpoint, and there's a segment of the population that loves the president. There's a segment of the population that hates him, and that's how they look at it. Now, in all fairness, their handling, again, of this Epstein list, whatever the hell you want to call it, it was clunky. And that's not a political comment. There was, we're going to do this, then we're going to do that. And there's no question that was really clunky. And that's certainly going to lead the public to start going into the conspiracy or down the conspiracy rabbit holes about why was that? Oh, he's on the list. He's not on the list. To someone like me, that's all background noise. Again, what matters is what's going on investigatively, what is the evidence, and what's being done to prosecute criminals. The public can scream and yell all they want about a list that does or does not exist and who's on it and what it means and politically, but that's not going to impact, at least to people like me, what happens with who are we going after, and is there going to be justice for the people who are victims in all of this? And by the way, how do you think that looks and sounds to the women who at the time, most of which were underage girls, see all this public back and forth fighting going on about, the list and this and Maxwell? I mean, has anybody taken a moment and thought how that appears to them about what's really important to the public and what's not? Is it the political nonsense and getting the advantage over who's on it or not, as opposed to what the hell is being done to get these guys, which is what really matters?
Yeah, all day. Oh, I support that so much. And it's bigger It's bigger than sides, and that is just a reminder for everyone. And you can, I love everyone's passion. Like, do you, booze? I don't care. I don't talk usually politics, religion. Well, no, I talk religion because it's my house, and if you're at my house, I'm going to talk about it. But if you're at a dinner table with someone, money, politics, and religion is what you should steer clear. But our moral compass and our internal desire to be good to one another, and that we believe that, like, people should pay for crimes no matter who you are, applies.
Yeah.
So try to undig yourselves. If you're feeling very dug in, just remember that a crime, no matter who commits it, should be held accountable for that, because that you would want it if it was happening to you or to your daughters or granddaughters or sisters, or brothers. I'm not sorry, I don't mean to make it women only, because men are victims as well. And anybody could be a victim. And if it was you, would you be like, oh, just because this person is politically affiliated, it's a Republican, oh God, like, no. Or it's a Democrat, oh, who, that wouldn't matter to you, because your family receiving the justice that they deserve, and so that this person can't commit, who is very alive, can't commit further crimes, is what matters, right?
That's right. And that's the key. This is about living criminals, not dead ones. So, and it bears repeating. The public focus on Jeffrey Epstein is misguided.
Oh,
this is
why is that? Is that just because of the media attention that he's always there?
Because there is this belief of a list, and that this somehow is about who he was flying to private islands and residences and whatnot. And that's not at all what this is about.
Okay. Noted. All right. Well, we'll move off of that topic because it's a hot one. But I support you. I support justice. Okay. I support the United States of America. And I support victims. So there is something inside of me that will go and watch those or listen to those transcripts, and to just educate myself further, because I only know what I see on the news. I'm not aware.
They're not impressive, just to be clear. When you look at these transcripts, you're going to see Ghislaine Maxwell basically say, I don't know much about anything other than, Jeffrey Epstein liked massages, but as far as I knew, they were all, women of age, and I had absolutely nothing to do with any criminality, and I don't know about anyone else who may have committed crimes with him. And yes, in hindsight, Epstein was a bad, bad man. Okay. She gave a useless interview. Okay. It was an opportunity for her to exploit the political situation and see if it would work out for her. And you know what? As a lawyer, if I was uninvolved, I understand what she's doing. I respect it. Her lawyers are brilliant. They're doing what they're supposed to do. They're trying to work an angle and see if they can get in and help the president in his political crisis and see if I get something out of it. She wants to get out of prison. I get it. It's not going to happen.
Got it. Because she was convicted again for crimes that she committed, and she hasn't even been, there are uncommitted crimes that she hasn't been even charged yet, correct?
She's not credible. And she has exposure for other crimes involving living people.
Boom. There it is.
Boyfriend.
There it is. Totally understand that. You've been busy. I know you've been busy. I know that as soon as you got home from vacation, not as soon as you got home from vacation, but I know that you are working on something that we may not be able to discuss at all. But I wanted to ask, can I know anything about a potential maybe motion that is coming, and what that would entail, look like within a realm or guardrails that we could know? Because I know that Aiden has been able to say very like surface, or he's discussed just what he thinks will be included?
Well, I mean, what's in the public realm is in the public realm. In terms of the nuts and bolts of what's not public, I wouldn't discuss that. But there was some discussion at the last court appearance, which I was not at because I was with kids running around sweltering Florida, as you know. But there was discussion about a lot of things involving the lack of discovery that has been provided still, in particular as it relates to a private citizen who immersed herself with the state police and the special prosecutor in the investigation. It's been publicly stated that they have destroyed, or a private citizen has deleted evidence which was previously in the prosecution's possession. They claim no longer is. They're wrong, by the way, legally.
Oh.
They had it. They're obligated to keep it, but we don't have it, which could be favorable to us. There are other things that you saw were discussed about some very disturbing oddities that occurred in the grand jury regarding the use of misleading evidence designed to give the grand jury the false impression about someone's alleged criminal intent. All of that will be addressed. So yeah, there is a motion to dismiss that's in the works. And again, this has been discussed. It relates to improper intentional misconduct before the grand jury. It relates to the failure to disclose all kinds of evidence that was specifically demanded for the past year. By the way, that's the purpose of the crayon letters, is to demand evidence, and the hope is that you get them. And then when you don't, you later file a motion and refer to the so-called crayon letters. We asked for all of this a year ago, and they never gave it to us. And had they given it to us, we could have done certain things. And a few other things, a disqualification motion, a second disqualification motion, but that, without getting to too much more detail, yeah, that's what it entails.
Yeah, and I think that it's not really stressed enough, the change or what the outcome may have been had there not been a manipulation of titles. To me, just from an outsider looking in, when you rename something that you had as the correct title in one area, so it's not like your case didn't know this the entire time, you named it correctly in one, and then when you are bringing it to a grand jury, you are saying like, oh, JK, I'm going to change this name so it looks like a 3-hour YouTube presentation is all on this one specific human, and to make them miserable or to cause them either emotional harm or something that could have effectively changed everything of the outcome.
Well, not only could it, but that's intentional misconduct. That is designed to mislead. And so, you take a situation where the quote unquote facts of the allegations, it's all either on video, published. The facts, this is a very unique situation. The facts are not really in dispute.
Yeah.
The issue is the man's intent. Okay. Now, proving intent can be a lot trickier than playing a video and saying this literally was said or done. The critical issue for the fact finder becomes why? Because in order to commit witness intimidation, you have to intend to do X, Y, and Z, right? So what happens when you have a situation where numerous videos or clips of videos, say a minute long of a 3-hour episode? Exactly. They know the name of an episode, okay, which may be something, you've seen, if you go online, you've seen the way he names his episodes. Now, what happens if the grand jury is told, I have a video and it comes from a folder labeled intent, as if your Christmas lights are blinking. You're telling the grand jury, this is this guy's intent. And then you testify that this is episode number, whatever. Okay. And then you tell the grand jury the name of that episode, or the name of this is I'm here to destroy Colin's life. Okay. And the true name of the episode is Breaking, Karen Reed case.
Commonwealth. Yeah, exactly.
DPS data. But the grand jury is played a 40-second clip that they are told comes from episode number whatever, ruining this guy's life. And what they don't know is the real name. They don't know that the episode is 3 hours long. And as he's wont to do, talk about any number of things at any given time for any given length. But the grand jury is instead told, we have this, it's titled this, it comes from a folder labeled intent, and we're telling you the wrong name. Now, the problem is the people running this operation, whether it be the special prosecutor and or the state police, they know the real names. And you know that because they archived it. And because when you look at the charging instruments in this case that are publicly filed, they cite the real name. So then the question then becomes, how the hell in the grand jury does it become these names, which were created by another person and given to them, and which they deliberately snookered the grand jury? Okay, that's the argument. And for a prosecutor to do that is outrageous. And now we believe it's intentional misconduct and impaired the integrity of the grand jury. And at a minimum, they ought to come in and explain how the hell they went from knowing what these episode names were to having a prosecutor and a detective lieutenant from the state police repeatedly mislabel, misname, talk about these kinds of things in front of a grand jury. We know where they got the evidence from. It came from a private citizen. We know that. How did that happen? Now, what was said at the last court appearance publicly was that the individual from the state police doesn't open these private links, doesn't know anything about it, but these private links just happen to be the names that they testified to that don't match the real episode names. This has to be fleshed out. Okay. These people should have to take oaths and testify, and you have to be cognizant of the fact when you allege that an indictment should be dismissed for misconduct by law enforcement in the grand jury, a key component in support of the death penalty, if you will, dismissal, right?
Yes.
Is intent. Okay. And we have what we believe is powerful evidence that at least satisfies the condition of saying they could be right. So let's get these people on the stand and let them explain how the hell this happened. And if a court concludes it doesn't rise to the right level, or it didn't prejudice the grand jury enough, or prejudice the client in front of the grand jury, so be it. But you need a hearing. Now, this is very similar to what should have happened in Karen's case.
Yes.
They suppressed all that video, as you know. That was in Proctor's back pocket for 2 years. And what the judge in that case, the mistake that she made in not granting a hearing, Karen's people had a right to prove it was intentional. Okay. That it wasn't just Proctor left it in his dirty pants for 2 years and didn't Lally. By the way, if anybody believed that, I mean, I didn't believe that. Lally should have, I would have paid money to cross-examine him and say, for 2 years, you had no idea? I mean, what do you do all day?
Right.
You talked to Proctor and then you saw what he said in Miles King and you understand. But the point is, they were deprived of the opportunity to examine Proctor and Lally and all of these other people about how could this possibly be not intentional. Okay. It's our view that, we are going to get that opportunity because we are going to plead a strong, well-sourced basis that entitles us to that.
I'm obsessed. And it's so interesting to me. It's almost like, isn't I don't know, like, not, isn't that some shit, but it's like poetic a little bit, that their intent when trying to persecute and prosecute Aiden on a statute that they've weaponized, in my opinion, against him in an unholy fashion, that it's like, what the shit? This has not been done in the Commonwealth. It was specifically targeted, in my opinion, towards Aiden Carney so that he would stop covering Karen Read.
Well, that, I
And
mean, you'll, again, wait for the motion. You'll see our view on that and what evidence supports that. But the problem legally is this: even if they want to pursue a case, okay, a grand jury does not involve a judge, okay?
Mhm.
There's no judge there. There's no referee, if you will. A prosecutor is the legal advisor to the grand jury, okay?
Mhm.
They have duties of fairness to the defendant in presenting a case to a grand jury. You've got to be impartial, okay? It is your responsibility to instruct the grand jury on the legal issues. It is your responsibility to give curative instructions and not introduce inadmissible evidence or prejudicial evidence for out of purpose. You're the judge, okay? And it goes without saying that if you are eliciting in evidence is misleading, and you do nothing to correct that, instead do it again and again and again, then you have violated and impaired the integrity of the grand jury proceeding. And if that causes prejudice to the defendant, then that indictment has to be tossed.
Yes.
And, you'll see, and ultimately a judge will decide. I mean, we present the case and the judge does what they do, but it doesn't matter what you think of any particular client. I understand this one is not the most popular person in the world with everyone, but if you think it's okay, in arguing a case where the only real issue is intent, and that it's okay to tell the grand jury, well, somebody created a folder titled intent, which they almost certainly believed was him. And here are the names of these things.
Yeah.
Ruining your life. I'm going to do this. All these nefarious titles, which are not true, and playing little snippets sent to you by a private citizen whose life mission is obsessed with getting this guy down, and the police rely on that individual to do their dirty work, and then you have a state police detective mislead the grand jury under oath, knowing that those are not the correct titles, and never telling them, ladies and gentlemen, just so you know, those are our titles. There are ways that you can correct this. No, you leave it out there and you allow the grand jury to be misled. And then when you tell them, you think this is sufficient evidence of what you believe personally is their intent, which is improper as well, then you have an indictment whose integrity has been impaired and has no credibility and has to be dismissed, or at a minimum, let these people get up under oath, answer the difficult questions on the witness stand, and explain why this wasn't intentional and why this was proper and why this wasn't a big deal. And if they can do that, God bless them.
Yeah. And also, I'm having tea with the Queen of England on Tuesday. If they can present that, that's the same truth. Two truths and a lie. The Commonwealth sucks. That's the truth. And their practices. Now, does it have to be in the most favorable light? Just, I don't know. And who am I talking about? But I'm just asking this question. Sorry, bear with me. Does it go to the most favorable light for the for the prosecution or for the defendant?
No, you always, anytime the defense is going to scream and yell about injustice or prejudice, a reviewing court is always going to look at, in a light most favorable to the non-moving side.
Okay.
And look, the key issue in any of these dismissal motions or any misconduct motions was the defendant prejudiced? And in this standard, or in this situation, when you're dealing with an indictment, the law of Massachusetts is that the allegations that allegedly impaired the integrity of the grand jury probably would have impacted the outcome. Now, that's usually where the argument is. The conduct here is indefensible. Now, they may not. They can argue all they want. But the level, in our view, the level of deceit is so great. The level of misleading is so great. But most importantly, it's intentional. And if it's intentional, then there is presumptive prejudice, because why would a prosecutor intentionally engage in misconduct unless they were trying to move the goalposts and have a grand jury do something that they otherwise wouldn't do? So there's a lot at play here.
Yes, there is. And there seems to be, I'm wondering, just in differentiating when we didn't get that outcome from Judge Cannoni versus in the at least looking for an evidentiary hearing or being able to question what was happening here. Do you think the judge, or do you feel like you guys are in a better setup than Karen was in her case for moving forward? Because I felt like she had a really strong case as well, but Judge Cannoni just knocked down everything, in my opinion, that was favorable to her.
So Karen's motion to dismiss, and more to the point, the evidentiary hearing that was sought in support of it was compelling. Okay. And they had every right to push the issue and establish a factual record of whether that misconduct was intentional. So why the judge in that case didn't order the hearing and didn't even address, I mean, she admitted clearly that the evidence was suppressed, but didn't even address the intent. That's, it's beyond belief to me. I can't even begin to guess how that happened. We have a different judge, as you know. There's no complaints. I mean, he's fair. Doesn't mean he rules in your favor on everything. Doesn't mean he rules against you. Any lawyer litigating a case is just going to simply ask, just give me a fair judge. Give me somebody who calls it balls and strikes. Yeah, can explain why with the law. And then again, we're combatants in an arena, and ultimately something happens and you win or lose and you put your sword down and go home. That's how it is. But that's all you can ask for. Others can debate whether that happened in Karen's case, and they won, notwithstanding what most people think about that. But I don't see that in our case at all. I see a judge being a judge.
Absolutely. And I appreciate the judicial prudence of Judge Doolin, what I've seen, and just a good tone and tenor in how he addresses both sides, as it should be. Now, there is something to be said about, I think it's often overlooked that 6 indictments were already dropped in this case, or cases rather.
Right.
That's huge. If the motion to dismiss were to, let's say, not remove all cases remaining, could there be specific cases like piecemeal that would be dropped in addition, or no, Mr. Bederow?
I mean, there can, but you have to understand the concepts that we're talking about now, that there was such egregious and pervasive misconduct before the grand jury that led to these indictments, that the entire proceeding was poisoned. Okay. There is a concept in the law known as spillover prejudice, that substantial prejudice on one thing can impact another count because it's just pervasive. It's everywhere.
Got it.
I look at this as an all or nothing situation, that the whole grand jury is literally been poisoned. And again, I don't want to get into too many details, but you'll see that there are things that you just can't do in a grand jury and expect it not to have a prejudicial impact. I mean, another example generally is you can't offer uncharged crimes or bad acts to just establish somebody's bad character or propensity, in your opinion, to commit crimes and those kinds of things, right?
Right.
You have to do it either in seeking an indictment or in a manner for a specific purpose in which you tell the grand jury, we're not offering this to show you he's a bad guy. This is evidence of intent. This is evidence of this. But again, as the legal advisor to the grand jury, you have to tell them that. And you have to say, don't consider it to this. It goes to this. But if you get hypothetically a situation where a prosecutor is charging somebody with umpteen counts of witness intimidation and then just decides to throw in completely unrelated and irrelevant charges that have nothing to do with witness intimidation and call witnesses to say, well, he did this too, and you don't even seek an indictment of that, to just say he's a bad guy. What prosecutor does that? And then doesn't tell the grand jury, well, I'm offering it for this. You just throw it out there and hope that they say, well, he's a dirtbag, so, you just indict him. There's a lot of things that we'll address in this kind of light that we think just the whole proceeding is infected with this metastasizing cancer of prejudice, and it just all needs to go.
And so in this case, it is the request for throwing the baby out with the bathwater, because it's all fuck. It was so pervasive and it was so insidious that it took like place in every single one. Like you're unable to say like, okay, I could drop this one because it was so far reaching, and that makes sense. And it was so far reaching into that grand jury that therefore, ergo, if not but for potentially what was done by this specific prosecutor, there would have been no charges ever. It would have been a no true bill because of the changes that they made. And in what realm did they have that ability to? Zero. They didn't have that authority to do what they did.
It's not even that
they did it.
I mean, it's really just saying that their conduct so impaired the integrity.
Yes.
Which is just another word for fairness, fundamental fairness.
That's it.
That there is a probability, it doesn't have to be they never would have indicted, that there is a probability that this contributed to the charges. And
okay.
If the court concludes that, then a court is obligated to toss the whole thing. Okay. And the larger issue here, again, is if there is substantial, credible proof that this was done intentionally, that this is not accidental. It wasn't a witness who blurted something out, but it was the prosecutor and detective knowing that they were doing something that was misleading and wrong, and they did it on purpose and did it again and again, almost 30 times repeatedly, and then said other things in the legal instructions, and then used uncharged bad acts and didn't instruct the grand jury on that, and did all of these things. The argument becomes you've got to just throw the whole thing out. That's ultimately going to be the argument, and at a minimum, a demand for a hearing to flesh out what we allege and give them the opportunity to deny it. But if there are material questions of fact, which the court would have to decide before issuing a decision, was this intentional? How did this happen? The only way to resolve when we say they did this and they say, no, we didn't, is to put the principals under oath and allow us to examine them in front of the court and let the court make a factual record about the misconduct, about the intent, about its impact. That's what Cannone deprived Aaron from doing, that she should have done, and that we believe is an even stronger argument as it relates based on the evidence that we have here.
Yes. 100%. And speaking of Proctor, Did you watch any of, or did you see any of the hearings, the appeal hearings?
No, I mean, I know it's going on. I mean, again, I've been on vacation. I've been working what feels like 15 hours a day since I've been home. I'm aware that Proctor is going through this process. To me, this is all a joke, a waste of time, effort, taxpayer money. Even if this guy did get his job back, he is he's not going to happen, but even if he did, he is quite literally useless as a law enforcement officer. He'll never, I mean, he would gather up his back pay, right? And then just resign the next day. This is an exercise in trying to get some money and restore some reputational damage that is beyond restoration. I just, all of this means nothing to me. I mean, Michael Proctor today is a dirtbag and almost certainly a corrupt police officer who deserved to be terminated. If by some miracle he got his job back tomorrow, I would tell you Michael Proctor is still a corrupt police officer who deserved to be terminated. No one's going to change their opinion about him. This is all just about him, whether he's going to stuff a few dollars in his pocket or not. And he and his family are going to have a talking point to say, we got screwed. I mean, this is all, at the end of the day, he's never policing again. He never should police again. And this is just a colossal waste of everyone's time other than perhaps his checkbook.
And that's that. I had some very nerve-wracking news about that, is that one of my, an attorney friend from Connecticut had messaged me and gave me a case law or not a case law. It was a case that had happened in his state, and was like, Kim, the unions, I need you to know that I'm going to need you to clench, and kegel, because I don't want you to be nervous, or I don't want you to be blind by the fact that the unions hold so much power, and that even if the Mass State Police were like, I don't want to do this, they would still have to reinstate if they win this appeal. So there is just, do you have any examples, or do you know of any time with New York?
Well, New York, I mean, everybody knows what are the two strongest unions, right? The PBA, the Policemen's Benevolent, the cop union, and the teachers union. Those, the public teachers. I mean, look, public unions, certainly in large bloated bureaucracies like New York City, are as strong as it gets. I mean, so yeah, I mean, Proctor is part of a real powerful union. And even Michael Proctor is entitled to due process, and he's using it. You can't fault him for it. Why he would subject himself to this, again, other than trying to get a few dollars and then resign, he has a right to do it. I don't fault him for that. I mean, I think he's a dirtbag no matter what happens. I don't think he's ever going to police again. And even if he didn't quit his job, if he got it back, what are they going to do? They're going to tell him clean
papers.
They're going to, you're going to clean the toilets until you quit. Yeah. I mean, to me, this is all just about him getting a few bucks, really.
And smoke and mirrors. And like you said, though, also reputation. It's reputational, because I feel as though, if I'm being clear, is that, for that family, and if you have Lizzie with her kitten heel, okay, just on your neck, literally saying, if you don't do this, which, I mean, yes, it brings more spotlight on the family, but it also is the attempt to repair the little inkling that he believes that he still has left of see, they did me wrong, when all of us can see that it was you who did everyone wrong, and specifically Karen Reed, and most importantly, Officer John O'Keefe, you did wrong, Proctor.
Yeah, I mean, look, the guy is a joke. And I mean, I don't know what the evidence they're using at this hearing for either side is, but this is a guy who went on national TV around the time of the verdict, and with everything that happened said, there's nothing I would do different.
Oh.
Okay. I mean, if I'm the state police trying to expose him as the joke that he is, I mean, I would just play that and say, this guy still doesn't get it. Okay, this is like the rehabilitated Proctor, right? The one that went on the press tour. This is the guy who's like, I would do nothing different.
Wouldn't change a thing.
Well,
Wouldn't change a thing.
And perhaps, sir, the only thing you should change is your career path. And maybe, policing isn't, it's not really for you. But, again, he has a right to do it. He's doing it. I don't fault him for that. I just, he's obviously a glutton for punishment and has no problem in people talking about him and just going back and forth with this kind of stuff. Everybody saw what, his involvement in that King case was a couple months, several weeks ago, which was just outrageous. The guy is just, there's a reason why the Reed case was what it was. He was a major part of that.
Yes.
There's a reason why, Walsh is controversial, right? He's part of that. There's a reason why this guy, Miles King, who large segments of the population think is a cold-blooded killer. Okay, I don't know about the real evidence in that case, but there's a reason why he's not in jail awaiting trial. It's because Proctor and Lally don't know how to disclose the most basic form of evidence. The guy has caused so much damage to the state police, the credibility of the DA's office, and the public's confidence in the criminal justice system. He's just go. He should just, if he had a shred of dignity about the public good and the credibility of the agency that he wants his job back, he would just leave, just go away.
Crawl into your hole. Yeah. And that makes sense in my opinion. And can you imagine? Couldn't be me, Mr. Bederow. God forbid. A, would never be me because I wouldn't be in that position. But B, you think that I would be out there being like, hi, I'm going to reopen this, never close. Like it's been, the scab has been picked so many times. And it's like, you're a absolute glutton for punishment. You're a glutton for Hostess cupcakes. And he is just sweating through his entire scalp. I can see it all. And if I were reading the tea leaves, I do not think, just like you said, he would ever be policing in any jurisdiction. Only thing he's going to be policing is paper clips.
The problem with someone like Proctor, the guy has no self-awareness. Okay. Everyone's the problem, and he's a victim, right? I mean, just the communications of his that have been publicly released. I'm not talking about the words literally that he used to describe Karen, but what he said about her. Okay. What he said about David Yannetti. That came out in court. Okay. That, Jackson's an asshole. What he said there. We know what he said about Aiden. We know that in addition to being a whack job, whatever, the medical examiner on this case, everyone's the problem but him. He's just a good old cop, but everyone who doesn't give him or tell him what he wants to hear is in the wrong here. Sir, it's you. Okay. If they used to have an expression, in law school, within the first couple of days of your first year of law school, if you didn't know who the class asshole was, you were the class asshole. That's kind of.
Oh, I love that.
Okay, it's you. Okay, and not everyone else is the problem in everything you do. You're the asshole.
Oh, yeah.
That's all. So just whatever, you did what you did investigatively. You said what you said. You ruined these cases in the way that you did. You didn't do this properly. It is what it is. And, maybe there's redemption for him, but it's not going to be by being this defiant, I did no wrong and it's all you, not me. So, you wonder where this guy gets his advice. It just not about legal advice. He has every right to do what he's doing legally. I don't fault lawyers 1 second, or his union. That's how unions work. They support the membership. They have to. Okay. No matter how much you like, in Major League Baseball, the union used to always support Alex Rodriguez, even though he was the biggest dirtbag in baseball. They had to do it, right? That's just unions support the members. They have to. But you wonder where his real advice in real life comes from, friends and family, to say, dude, man, you're just making it worse.
I just wanted to say that clearly he does not have his rabbi and or his consigliere, who is mine, attorney, Mr. Mark Bederow. Just saying, you wish you could never to Proctor. And finally, though, the only other thing I wanted to ask you, Mr. Bederow, is did you happen to catch the Howie Carr interview with AJ and Karen? And did you have any thoughts?
I didn't see a lot of it live. Obviously, for all kinds of other reasons, I was curious and watched it. I have a very boring view of this, which, you know, people are like, oh my God, I like Howie Carr.
Be boring.
The fact that he interviewed Karen and Alan, okay. As far as interviews go, I don't think it was that interesting. That's not a criticism of anyone, just it wasn't anything new. I don't think. You know, there's discussion about a possible lawsuit, which we expect. Obviously, as you know, I'm a huge fan and respect so much Alan, as you know.
Of course.
Like as much as I can respect any attorney. You know, I had a professional relationship with Karen, and obviously I'm very outspoken about her innocence, the way she was treated. I have another client, as you know. I stay on the law stuff. Okay. I'm a big fan and always have been, even growing up, of Howie Carr.
Yeah.
Funny. I think he's entertaining. I think he's on the right side of these issues that he's been talking about as it relates to Karen and Aiden. It is what it is, and I leave it for other people to decide who should be speaking to whom or not. And it's beyond my bailiwick. You know, it's not my thing. I'm here to fight for people in court, and I certainly don't want bad things to happen, but I'm not involved in the other stuff. I like everyone involved in this, so I see it in a way where obviously I represent people. I like the lawyers. I like the reporters. Other people can get involved. It, to me, was whatever. And, you know, back to work. That's how I look at it.
Back to work. I did want to say that, like, of course, and I've known, I don't know Howie Carr, but I've known of how, like, clearly known since I was a kid, a baby, a child. And I just thought it was, for me, the second segment I thought was great, but the first one I go, what are we doing with? I felt like bringing out rubber duckies or bringing out pieces of plastic as pretend taillight. I was just like, I felt like that was tone deaf, not of Karen. Karen didn't do anything wrong, neither, or Alan, but like, I was just like, ew. I was like, I don't know. It just, for the first interview, like, I wanted to know how you're feeling, how you're sleeping, how your family is. Like, I want to know. And of course, what do you think about an incredible question of what do you think is coming with, or what, if you had one word for the DA's office, what would it be? And like, you know, I thought that was really good, but like the bag of tricks of where's Chloe? Like, I don't know. To me, I just found it a bit of a miss, in my opinion.
Yeah, I mean, I'm not a commentator on you know, who interview and how they do it, other than to say, as I said, I like Howie.
Yeah, of course.
I like Karen. I like Aiden. I understand, you know, there's been some discussion online with people, and I understand the people who think, you know, maybe they should have spoken to him first. I get it. I also understand the people who say, well, what's the difference? And my attitude is, I'm a lawyer trying to deal with important things in life, and I don't have the mental bandwidth or concern about, you know, a radio interview involving people I like. I mean, it's interesting to me. I'm always curious to hear what's going on, but in terms of the drama that surrounds it, I leave that for other people. I just don't care.
Totally agreed. And
I went on with that night. I knew he was going to be on Mike's show for minutes and made it clear that I was going to do that. And again, that one has nothing to do with me. You know,
Right.
I'm just a lawyer trying to, deal with legal things and knows all the people involved, but it's just kind of not my thing to care about that. Others can do that.
Agree. And I don't usually. Well, I have opinions about everything, but I don't
Here's-
need to.
Everyone has opinions, and everyone's entitled to it, and they're entitled to express it or not express it. That's up to any individual. I guess and everyone's different. I'm not judging people who think differently. I don't know why every opinion that everyone has on every issue that may not even involve them necessarily needs to be shared on Twitter, which is just an unhealthy cesspool anyway. And if you look at it the last couple of weeks, it is a pit of lunacy and just batshit craziness like I've never seen it. So, and that's just me though.
Me too.
People, if they want to share their views online saying, I believe this or I believe that, they can do it. But I don't know that was healthy either.
Yeah, and just the old proverb, whatever it is, opinions are like assholes, and everyone has one. And you can also shut the fuck up. Sorry, no offense, but like we don't need to know. I don't need to know everything. You don't need to know everything. I feel as though when you think that when people think that their opinions matter like extensively, that they take the time to document why I'm such a piece of shit, that's a you thing, not a me thing, right? Mm-hmm. Like that's about the person who has taken the time out of their life to document what you think about nothing that has to do anything with you, any realm of your existence. So I'm learning to let it go. And I'm not going to respond unless I feel like I need to on certain things. But I just believe in Karen's innocence. I respect Karen Reed. I respect Alan Jackson. I respect Howie Carr, and I respect Aidan Carney. And I thank Aidan Carney for what he did for Karen Reed and for bringing it to light for all of us what happened in the dark on January 29th, 2022. So that's it. And I just wanted to give my support without giving shade, without giving hate, without doing anything to anyone. But I do appreciate it, and I do ride for Aidan. And I believe that I'm going to continue to hope that all of the amplification or the knowledge and the awareness of us is what makes a difference in the future, and that we can free Turtle Boy in the end. My opinion.
Yeah.
Thank you.
You said it. There you go. That's my opinion, and I'm sticking to it. Right.
Always. Thank you for Sunday service with me, Mr. Bederow. I've kept you for 2 hours and 7 minutes and 22 seconds. You are the best.
Oof.
You are the best to ever do it. I am obsessed. You know this. Like I would, if I could hold, like not hold, I was going to say, oh my God, I was going to say, if I could hold you captive, I would captive you on my Sundays, because you are just, you bring me calm, you bring me peace, and you make me feel like looking forward to the week of like, it's going to be like Kim, it's okay. Calm down. Don't ride the wave of like nervousness. Just let it happen. And you're going to show up where you're needed, just like I always do.
That's all you can do.
All right. Anything else? Do you have anyone you want to say hello? Or because sometimes you have like a list of people who like of your fan club that you do little shout outs for.
No, I don't. No, not today. I think there's all kinds of real life things going on that some of the people I would ordinarily shut out, I don't think are going to be watching today. They're doing real stuff. That's okay. Oh, okay. Well, to everyone that's doing the real things, I love you, and I love my family, to my loveys, and to our emotional support attorney. Thank you, Mr. Bederow, for coming today, and I'll talk to you soon. See you soon. Bye. Bye. As usual, loveys, stop. Okay. Can you stand it? No.
No, you can't. We're obsessed. He's literally our person. I know. I make it weird. Okay. Today is Sunday. It is 11:15. I bid you adieu. Go out. Do, I don't know, acts of service for others. Do acts of service for yourself. Go take a tubby, take a bath, get some bubbles, okay? And just look forward to this week and what is coming, and that it is bigger than all of us. And when we are together and when we amplify our voice and stand up for justice, that we are making a difference every single day. And it's because of you, right? Not for me. I'm just your best friend from out of town, talking to Jesus and Mary in the boom. Boom. There it is. And thank you. I think I am going to put Mr. Bederow in as my rabbi. Okay. Bye, babies. Have a wonderful rest of your Sunday. Thank you for answering my FaceTime. Bye.
All right, great job on the news.
Thank you.
We will, Courtney and I will share what happened when we went to dinner last night, Sunday dinner, coming up. And as